Welcome to Vegan Ultra. It's Thursday night, so back to Vegan Chat with Adam and Sean, your co-inspiration guides. And tonight is a very special edition. Now, if you recall, we've been talking about Blue Zone lifestyles and everything from nutrition to exercise to sleep, all these important things. But we're today exploring once again stress management and specifically how to deal with the boss from hell. Now, look, we've all had these kind of bosses. Even those of us like myself who entrepreneurs, we have to deal with partners that, just sometimes you wonder how on earth did they get their positions? And sometimes these people can act like real dicks. They will ride your ass. You will do your best. You will take into their account their feedback. You will bend over backwards to make them happy. And they will always, it's just almost, you feel like they're persecuting you. They're looking for some excuse to get upset, to say that you're doing a bad job, or even to punish you, even maybe fire you. So I've got 4 tips that have really helped me to get through these difficult times that I've had with some of my business partners. And I know from talking with Sean that they can help him. So Sean, give us as much as you are comfortable feeling, because I know you've had a really rough day, but give us a 5-minute summary. What are you going through right now, my friend, with your boss from hell?
Let's see. Not going to be as quick with the responses tonight. I'm really in a whirlwind. I'm to the point. I can back up a little bit and say that I've been working exhaustively. I'm on a project. I've been on a project for a while, and
I believe you said last time that you've been almost now 3 weeks, so you've been working nonstop every day for 3 weeks.
Yeah. So the project is ongoing for beyond 2 years, and I've been at the company for about 2 years. So it's been the same project the whole time. And we've been trying to escalate schedule-related concerns. And we haven't been successful in getting an escalation path. And that's always troublesome, because sometimes you get a line back from management that, sometimes you have to do a little sprint, and sometimes you have to do some recovery, and a schedule is never perfect, and all of those are correct lines, but you hope that your management would entertain your escalation request or your risk assessment and say, well, let's look at the details. And if they looked at the details and said that, let's look backwards at the schedule and find out that every milestone has been missed by, several months, then you should start to see the pictures that the reality is it's so far apart from what's on the schedule that there are going to be constraints, there are going to be expectations that are not going to be met. And meanwhile, your team they're just trying to do their best. And all the activities have to get done. We're delivering a project. We're not going to get toward the end of the schedule and say, well, we got close. Here you go.
Yeah, and I believe you work in aerospace. So, if you don't get this delivered, people could die. This is some serious life and death stuff.
And that needs to be the standard for aerospace, and that has to be understood. And you can't have an aerospace company without having those universal policies. In my case, I am on a product division that does not have safety of flight critical products. So, but all the same, your point is still valid, because it's the same. It's a company. It's a process. Whether it's safety of flight critical or not, we have to show compliance to the same regulations through the same process. So you can't. There's no way to miss something. The rigors of the approval process don't allow that. nor would the customer. Like, and some of the activities that I'm talking about are just, basic design activities. So if the reality that you're performing, your resource planning, is not going to allow you to meet that schedule, eventually your customer is going to get pretty upset. So, and I've seen this before. The people working in design will raise the flag, and it usually gets deferred. And sometimes there's good reasons for that, and sometimes the reasons get a little less good. And I've seen some of that on this project. And we're at a point where we're toward a culmination. So we've done much of the work. We are in the phase where we're trying to wrap things up and capture some reports. And I'm working on a report right now. And I was asked to work over the weekend and work on a report that the activities were still in progress, but I was still asked to be working on the report over the weekend, even though the activities weren't done yet. So a little bit frustrating when they know that I have to move, and that's my time. The weekend is my time to move. But I thought, okay, it's time to do what they want to do. It's time to do the sprint. It's time to do all hands, put all the effort in that I can, and one, help the team, and two, hopefully get a little bit of good favor. So then that working over the weekend turned into, I worked 2 weekends in a row between 3 weeks of work. So I worked 19 days in a row, and the last 7 days of that 19 days in a row, I logged like 66 hours. And I found out that's too much for me now. I did that in my 20s at my last company on a crunch and a sprint and a little bit more voluntary, and I got paid for the time differential, and it was truly everybody involved was doing that. But I did that for close to a month, and I started to get kind of burned out, and now I'm just it doesn't take a month, and I get burned out, and it compounds with the frustration of, we've tried to escalate this stuff and we've gotten nowhere with it. So
basically you're saying for 2 years you've been letting them know that this schedule, we've been falling behind, we just don't have the resources, this is not realistic, that the design, the safety, the quality standards, that this is, somebody from on high is telling the clients, hey, no worries, you go and get it. And you're basically going to say, for 2 years we're telling you this cannot be done. And now that your bosses are kind of saying, well, now come on, all you got to do is work 24/7 for a few months, and we can get this done.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly right. This past week has added. I'm not going to go too much in detail here, but I will try to convey the level of stress that there are some fundamental misunderstandings of the deliverables that I'm working on right now, such that my assessment, because nobody has stated this explicitly, but you can read the room, you can interpret the rhetoric when it's coming at you. I'm being viewed as though I'm being obstinate, defiant, non-compliant, and in reality what I'm doing is my job as an engineer, and an engineer it can vary based on the field, and it can vary based on the individual person, depending on the organization chart of that project and what the deliverables are. In some fields there is a professional engineer, and in that field they'll call that a PE for shorthand. And a PE is just one of many examples of, this is the person that signs, and they say, I'm using my licensure to be the signatory that validates or certifies, or whatever the language is in that field, that I've reviewed the above to be true and correct and to meet the standards. Maybe it's the requirements, maybe it's a regulatory compliance, and that's a role. Well, in aviation, there's a number of roles that are similar, And as a design engineer, one of the roles is an applicant. And an applicant is somebody who I am applying to the regulatory body. In the United States, we have the FAA. And we say, I'm applying to the FAA for my design to be approved as certified and airworthy to be installed on an airplane. And so who is the applicant? That can vary, but regardless, as the design engineer, I'm the person who is providing the data that is going to be, signed, approved, and used for the justification for whoever's the applicant, whether it's me, or in my case, it might end up being the customer. The customer might be the final applicant, and they have to use my data that I sign with my signature to say this is true, correct, complete, and it meets all of our requirements and standards. And so if there is a misunderstanding that's going on, that it's a process versus schedule, and the pressures are that the schedule is trying so hard to win, and I just have no way of allowing it to. I don't have a mechanism for creating any new loopholes or side chains or band-aids. I have to sign my data to be true and complete and correct. And so that misunderstanding is driving a great deal of stress, and it's putting me into a position where I am quite confident that I'm being tagged as this guy is defiant and he doesn't want to be a team player and meet the schedule.
Oh, that's absolutely terrible. I mean, it basically sounds like you are in a very important field where this is not like some kind of like marketing project. Like, this is engineering. You have to actually build something real and tangible, like you said, airframe. Even if it's not necessarily for safety, this thing's got to actually fly in the sky. And it sounds like they're saying, hey, we want you just to sign off. Everything's okay. Everything's just, tell our customers everything's on schedule. Everything's going to be fine. And you're saying, hey, I'm not going to lie. This is my professional, opinion that this is just not working out. And when you're trying to be honest, when you're trying to basically, give people data they need to make important decisions, they're just saying like, look, hey, we want you to be a yes man and rubber stamp this. That's what a team player is, not just, putting in 70-hour weeks, week after week, but, lie and make us look good.
Yeah, and I don't think they understand that that's what they're asking. I'm being a little generous, but I do also want to give some credit because people have good intentions. They've got their own jobs to perform. So I do want to give them that credit. And one of the conflicts that you have as in the engineering field, sometimes they call people at my level an individual contributor, and we report up to managers, and there's economics to it. The manager doesn't have time to shadow every single one of his reports for 8 hours a day to understand it. Like, that's not the role of a manager. So there's a natural conflict that comes. The systems and processes of the company should help accommodate for that. I put my data into the system goes, brings my data through reviews. The reviews are peer reviews, manager reviews, approver reviews of different levels of engineers and quality and airworthiness and certification specialists and so forth. So what you hope to have is enough trust to the individual contributor is providing the data. It doesn't get more added to it at these other levels of review. The individual contributor, so me, the design engineer, I have to get everything correct in the first place. Now, the review cycle is the opportunity to correct things that are off, but but let's make sure there's not a misconception. I don't do partial data and then put it into the cycle and then expect the certification specialist to add the stuff that's missing. They have an opportunity to correct if I'm missing something. But the idea is not that I do my part and the next person does their part and adds the piece. No, the expectation is that I fill it out to be complete and correct before it goes into the release cycle. And the ideal is that it's so correct that everybody approves, and any of the markups are, oh, there was a typo here, and you misstated this, that could be ambiguous, and correct these couple of things, and we're all gonna agree and sign it. That's what you try to do. So you hope that you get enough trust from your leadership to do that work, to be true and correct, and so that it can go into the system. And I think what's happening is there can be a pattern in engineering where the engineer is looked at, and you may have heard of this phrase, don't let perfect be the enemy of good enough. And engineers do get a reputation of dwelling and trying to make something so super perfect that like, oh, I missed this, and oh, now I thought of that, and oh, I can improve this, and that comes with scope creep and schedule creep and so forth. So they do, like, these folks have a role. They have a role to make sure that we're doing things in a timely fashion. So I want to grant them that leeway, but it doesn't take away the severe stress that I'm having over this right now.
Oh man, thank you so much for sharing this story with us. This is something I think we can all relate to, and the thing is, I mean, really, what I want to congratulate you for, giving credit to your bosses, and like you said, they're not bad people. There's always misunderstandings. In every business, this is the kind of thing where, stuff is gonna go wrong. It's like the only certainty is there's lots of uncertainty, and if things are going perfect now, just give it a day. So I want to help you. I want to leave you and everyone watching with basically 4 simple recommendations, just some advice that I've come across that has really helped me. It's my medical team, my trainer, this is from them. So the first thing, like when in a crisis moment, when you are just feeling completely overwhelmed, it's the physiological sigh. So take a deep breath halfway in, then all the way in, hold it for a few seconds, and then breathe out through the mouth. Do this about 10 times. You will calm your nervous system. It will help really kind of just calm, de-escalate things, because sometimes you can get so upset that you literally wish somebody harm. You might literally want to punch them, and you might come to blows. So you do not want to do something like that. So that's the first recommendation. Now, second, later in the day, maybe you get home, if you've got access to a pool or a hot tub. I just did a video on the science-based magic of hot tubbing. It's freaking awesome. But I understand, not everyone has access to that. Just a hot shower, hot bath, any kind of something that can help you to just de-stress, dilate those blood vessels, kind of lower that blood pressure. That can really help you. It can help you even with some sleep. And then really, meditation. I know hippy dippy, right? It's like, oh, Blue Zone Vegans, you're all about the mindfulness and the meditation. It's like, what? It's really, especially with sleep, some of these apps. And, I have one that costs about like $5 a month, but you can find some really amazing meditations on YouTube, including just things that can help you get to sleep. And, that has really made a difference in my life. And then finally, you're going to find it surprising, but it actually makes sense. And that is, be okay with that anger. That anger, even something as angry as negative as vengeance, right? We've all felt that. Someone has wronged us. Someone has been so unjust that we almost just dream of exacting retribution. Take that anger, accept it. That is a normal human emotion, and it can be harnessed to good purposes. Because guess what? Exacting vengeance? Absolutely. But remember this, living well is the best revenge. Now, personally, like my family will tell you, it's just like I was wronged by, in my divorce. I mean, I'm not going to go into the details because I've gotten past it. But I was taken to the cleaners. And just like a lot of people who've been through a messy divorce, it was a long, drawn-out process, and it is so easy to hate another human being. And you know what? If you have been wrong, that hatred is sanctified by the righteousness of your injustice. But at the end of the day, one of the proudest things that I can say is that I have taken my life, which completely fell apart, and I have rebuilt it with the help of family and friends, people like Sean, his Blue Zone vegan lifestyle. Really, it's been a long process, but I've built it up. And now, this is kind of like in another video that I did, that these stresses, it is so hard in the moment. And I totally understand, Sean. It's like, right now you're just trying to survive. But you really will. 6 months from now, a year from now, you will look back on this as an opportunity to grow stronger. And really, whatever your goals in life are, these kind of challenges, you think of them almost as a blessing in disguise, because these are the challenges you need to stress yourself, to grow as a person, to overcome these so that you can move on to the next challenge. Because ultimately, life is nothing more than a series of challenges we overcome to achieve our goals. And so take that anger, even that desire for vengeance, and just remember that overcoming that alone is a victory. Something you can have, like my uncle told me, don't become a bad person just because someone treats you badly. And I want to thank you and just congratulate you again, being able to calm down, because man, I could almost sense when we were talking earlier, I could sense the frustration, sense the despair and the rage, and you know how it is.
Yeah.
That kind of emotions where you just like, you want to scream. But these 4 tips, that physiological side, that hot shower, that meditation, even something, simple, just lie down and breathe, and then harness that. Remember, put things in context. And at the end of the day, let that drive you. I mean, that's the thing. It is sometimes there are bad people. And sometimes you just have to, get through something. And it's like, I am not saying in any way, like if you have a boss that is, being abusive, that is, God forbid, they're actually, things like, sexual harassment, or they are like exploiting you. You don't just take that. You have to make a plan to escape that kind of dangerous situation. But that's the thing. Use that anger as a fuel, and it's just like harness it. All human emotion is valid, so understand that, accept it, and that is what we're trying to help you as Blue Zone vegans. It's not just about we want to help make the world vegan. No, we want the Blue Zone lifestyle. We want you to be healthy, happy, thriving, self-actualized, the best version of yourself. And you know what? We celebrate the wins. But along the way on the wins, we got a whole lot of crap we got to climb through. So I will leave you with one of my favorite Winston Churchill quotes. If you're going through hell, for the love of God, keep going. The only way is through. So thank you so much for joining me and Sean for Vegan Chat this week. I hope you join us next week, where we'll be talking about more ways of dealing with stress, including some of the stuff that everybody's favorite topic, at least in the coming weeks, taxes. So thank you so much for joining us. Please subscribe to this channel, like this video to help other people find it on YouTube, and consider trying a Blue Zone vegan lifestyle. It's helped Sean become the happiest, healthiest version of himself for 10 years, and it's helped me to lose 112 pounds in 7 months. As my doctor says, Truly science-based magic and nutrition-fueled sorcery that can help anybody become the Captain America version of yourself if you give it a chance and are powered by plants.